We live in an era where, with a single mouse click, a teenager can become anyone, a knight, an astronaut, or even a dragon. Digital space has transformed into a vast laboratory of identities, where every avatar, nickname, or profile becomes a canvas for self-expression. These virtual masks are not just a game, but a vital tool in shaping the personality of a modern teenager. In a world where the boundaries between real and virtual are blurring, digital images become an extension of our self, or even its alternative versions. Every pixel of an avatar, every letter of a nickname carries a deep meaning. It's a code through which one can read a person's story, their aspirations, fears, and dreams. Today, we will delve into the astonishing world of virtual identities to understand how digital space changes the self-perception of the younger generation, what opportunities it opens up, and what challenges it presents to us. How can we distinguish healthy experimentation with identity from losing oneself in virtual worlds? Why do teenagers create different versions of themselves on different platforms? And how does this affect the formation of a holistic personality in an era where we simultaneously exist in both physical and digital dimensions? Human identity is a concept that has evolved throughout the history of civilization. In ancient times, it was primarily defined by belonging to a family, tribe, or caste. The Middle Ages linked an individual to their social estate and religion. The Enlightenment, for the first time, placed individual self-awareness at the center, and the 20th century, with its psychoanalytic theories of Freud and Jung, deepened the understanding of the multifaceted nature of the human personality. But nothing changed the concept of identity as radically as the advent of the Internet. For the first time in human history, the individual gained the ability to exist simultaneously in multiple dimensions, physical and digital. Psychologist Erik Erikson, who developed the theory of psychosocial development, could not have foreseen that his concept of identity crisis would acquire a new dimension in the era of social networks and online games. Today, a teenager forms themselves not only through real interaction with others, but also through the creation of digital projections of their personality. Sociologist Irving Goffman spoke of life as a theater where we play different roles. The digital world has turned this metaphor into a literal reality, where each platform becomes a separate stage with its own rules of performance. Kenneth Gergen's theory of social constructionism finds vivid confirmation in how teenagers construct themselves through digital artifacts, avatars, statuses, posts. Virtual space has become an ideal laboratory for experimenting with identity, as psychologist James Marcia wrote, expanding Erikson's theory. Here, one can try on different images without long-term consequences, live out alternative versions of oneself, and explore facets of one's personality in a safe environment. In the digital world, an avatar becomes our visual representative, a second body that can both reflect reality and completely contradict it. For teenagers, choosing an avatar is not just a technical necessity, but a deeply personal act of self-expression. Every element of the visual image, from hairstyle to clothing, from pose to surroundings, becomes a significant symbol in the process of constructing a digital self. Research reveals a surprising pattern. The choice of avatar type is often linked to specific psychological needs. Realistic avatars, similar to their creator, are usually chosen by those who seek authenticity and consistency between the real and virtual worlds. This is a kind of statement. I remain myself even in the digital space. Idealized versions of themselves, with enhanced facial features, a flawless figure, reflect not only the natural desire to look attractive, but also the aspiration to realize their potential, to show the world a version of themselves that the teenager strives to be. Fantasy avatars open up an even more interesting layer of psychology. The choice of non-human creatures, animals, mythical beings, robots, is often associated with the desire to explore aspects of personality that are difficult to manifest in the real world. A teenager choosing the image of a dragon might thus express a desire for strength and independence. A fox avatar might symbolize cunning and adaptability, qualities that are lacking in everyday life. A screen name is not just a set of characters. It's the first thing others see of us in the digital space. The first impression we make even before communication begins. For teenagers, choosing a nickname becomes a crucial act of self-determination, a verbal projection of their personality into the virtual world. Psycholinguistic studies show that teenagers encode crucial aspects of their identity in their nicknames. Dark Phoenix might speak of a desire for rebirth after life's difficulties. Sky Dreamer, of a romantic nature, dreaminess, a striving for freedom. And Math Wizard 22, of a desire to emphasize their intellectual abilities and achievements. Interestingly, the evolution of nicknames often reflects internal maturation. A 14-year-old superkiller may eventually transform into a more restrained Alex T, or even revert to their real name. Linguists call this process verbal maturation, when the need for shock value and drama is replaced by a desire for authenticity. Linguistic games in nicknames are a separate phenomenon of digital identity. Deliberate errors, replacing letters with symbols, mixing languages, all this creates a special code, understandable to insiders and impenetrable to outsiders. This is how the linguistic boundaries of virtual communities are formed. Interestingly, studies have found a connection between the type of nickname and online behavior. Users with abstract, fantastical names more often show creativity in communication, but may be less consistent in their statements. Those who choose nicknames close to their real name usually demonstrate a more restrained, but also more stable communication style. The choice of language for a nickname is also significant. A teenager using English words in a Russian-speaking environment may thus emphasize their involvement in global culture, a desire to go beyond the local context. And the use of rare languages or professional terms often speaks of a desire to demonstrate their erudition or belonging to a certain subculture. In the digital age, many teenagers live parallel lives on various online platforms. Instagram, TikTok, Discord, Telegram. Each platform becomes a separate stage with its own rules of presentation and audience expectations. The phenomenon of multiple identities is not a clinical split personality, but rather a natural adaptation to the diversity of digital contexts. Psychologists note that creating different versions of oneself has deep evolutionary roots. Humans have always displayed different facets of their personality depending on the social context, with parents, friends, teachers. The digital world has only amplified this tendency, creating clear boundaries between different spheres of communication. Why might a teenager be a serious intellectual on educational platforms, an unrestrained joker in gaming chats, and a sensitive romantic in private messages? Research shows that this is not merely a desire to hide or deceive, but a search for safe spaces to explore different aspects of their personality. On professional platforms, a teenager can try on the role of a future specialist, practicing business communication skills. In fandom communities, immerse themselves in a world of fantasy and creativity. In closed chats with close friends, discuss personal experiences they are not ready to share publicly. Managing multiple digital personas requires significant cognitive effort. A teenager must remember what image they have created on each platform, what stories they have told, what photos they have published. This process can both contribute to the development of cognitive flexibility and lead to fragmentation of self-perception. Virtual communities have become the most powerful factor in shaping the identity of modern teenagers. If previously peer groups were formed primarily on a territorial basis, school, yard, sports section, today geographical boundaries are blurring, giving way to a commonality of interests, values, and worldview. Gamers, anime fans, eco-activists, aspiring musicians. In the digital space, everyone finds their tribe, their circle of like-minded people. And this tribe begins to shape the personality no less actively than family or school. The mechanism of inclusion in a virtual community resembles ancient initiation rites. A teenager must master the specific language of the group, its unwritten rules, cultural codes, and rituals. Researchers call this process digital acculturation. Slang, memes, inside jokes, specific reactions to events. All this becomes markers of belonging to the group. It is interesting that the mastery of these codes happens rapidly. Literally within weeks, a teenager can fully integrate into a new community and begin to reproduce its behavioral patterns. The acceptance of group norms often manifests itself not only in online communication. Teenagers transfer elements of the subculture into real life, from clothing style to manner of speech, from musical preferences to political views. This influence is especially strong in communities with a vivid identity and clearly defined boundaries. For example, in fandoms or ideologically colored groups. Psychologists note the duality of the influence of virtual communities. On the one hand, they give teenagers a sense of belonging and support, which is especially important during the period of personality formation. On the other hand, they can create an echo chamber effect, where a person hears only opinions consonant with their views, which hinders the development of critical thinking. The digital space has opened up unprecedented opportunities for teenagers to explore their gender and sexual identity. In the virtual world, where the physical body remains behind the screen, the individual gains freedom from many social constraints and expectations. This creates a unique environment for safe experimentation with self-expression. The phenomenon of gender switching, when a user chooses a character or avatar of the opposite sex, has become a common practice in online games and social platforms. 16-year-old Alexi, who plays a female character in a popular role-playing game, explains, "It gives me the opportunity to see the world from a different perspective. I better understand how girls are treated online, what difficulties they face." Psychologists note that such experiments perform an important developmental function. They allow teenagers to explore different aspects of their personality without fear of judgment or rejection, which can accompany similar experiments in the real world. The virtual environment becomes a safe laboratory for self-discovery. Online communities often become the first place where young people questioning their sexual orientation or gender identity find understanding and support. Here they can ask questions they are shy to discuss with parents or friends, hear stories of people with similar experiences, and receive emotional support. It is important to understand, experiments with gender expression in the digital space do not necessarily indicate gender dysphoria or a specific sexual orientation. Often, this is simply part of the normal process of self-discovery characteristic of adolescence. The virtual world simply provides more flexible and safe tools for this. The digital space, with all its advantages, conceals many dangers for the developing personality of an adolescent. Behind bright avatars and freedom of self-expression can lie the dark side of virtual identities. Cyber addiction is one of the most common threats. When the digital self becomes more important than the real one, a teenager can gradually lose connection with the physical world. Psychologists note alarming signs: growing anxiety when unable to go online, neglect of basic needs such as sleep and nutrition, Rejection of real communication in favor of virtual. Closed online communities can become an environment for the radicalization of views. Social media algorithms, predominantly showing content that aligns with existing beliefs, create an information bubble effect. In such an environment, even moderate views can gradually take an extreme form. Teenagers seeking recognition and a sense of belonging are particularly vulnerable. Cyber harassment is another serious threat. The anonymity of the network lowers the threshold of aggression, making bullying more cruel than in real life. Moreover, it is harder to hide from digital bullying. It pursues the victim across all devices, penetrating personal space. Finally, the growing disconnect between digital and real identity can lead to serious psychological problems. When a teenager creates an idealized version of themselves online, returning to reality with its limitations becomes painful. This can cause depression, anxiety, and dissociative disorders. Alarming signs of unhealthy forms of digital self-presentation include a constant need for validation through likes and comments, extreme idealization of the online image, sharp mood swings when transitioning from the virtual world to the real one, and avoidance of real social contacts. It is important to understand that the virtual space itself is neutral. It can both contribute to healthy personal development and harm it. Imagine that every one of your messages, photos, or comments online remains there forever. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario. It's the reality of the digital world that modern teenagers face. Unlike real life, where memories fade and mistakes are forgotten, the internet possesses an almost perfect memory. A digital footprint is the sum of all a person's actions in the online space, and it becomes an integral part of a modern teenager's identity. A bad joke posted at 13 can resurface when applying to university. An emotional post written in a fit of anger can be found by a potential employer years later. This feature of the digital world creates a completely new psychological reality. Identity becomes not only who we are now, but also everything we have ever been online. The permanence of the digital footprint gives rise to a phenomenon that psychologists call temporal compression. The past and present are compressed into a single continuum, depriving the teenager of the right to forget their mistakes and the right to the natural evolution of their personality. Many young people describe this feeling as living under constant surveillance, or the impossibility of starting fresh. The problem of the right to be forgotten becomes one of the central ethical dilemmas of the digital age. Should a person have the ability to erase their past from the network? Where is the line between public interest and the personal right to control one's digital history? Adults often find themselves in a difficult situation, trying to understand their children's digital lives. These questions regularly arise for parents and educators. The communication gap between generations has never been as deep as in the era of digital identities. Parents grew up in a world where identity was primarily formed through real social interactions, while their children live in a hybrid reality where virtual and physical spaces are equally significant. When a mother asks to see messages in a messenger, a teenager perceives it as if a parent demanded to read a personal diary. The digital space has become an intimate territory, and intrusion into it is perceived as a violation of personal boundaries. To bridge this gap, adults need to master a new approach to communication. Instead of control and prohibitions, genuine interest and respect for the teenager's digital life. Psychologists recommend starting with something simple. Ask the child to show their favorite platforms. Explain what makes them interesting. Introduce them to their virtual friends. It is important to ask open-ended questions without judgment. Tell me, why do you like this blogger? What's the most interesting thing about this game? How did you come up with your nickname? Such conversations not only help to better understand the teenager's digital identity, but also strengthen trust. Educators should integrate digital culture into the educational process. Discussion of ethical aspects of online behavior, analysis of mechanisms for forming digital reputation, studying the psychology of virtual communities. These topics can become part of a modern personal development program. The key principle of supporting teenagers in their digital self-expression is a balance between freedom and safety. It is important for adults to learn to distinguish healthy experimentation with identity from potentially dangerous behavior. Alarming signals can be a sharp change in the social circle, radicalization of views, excessive idealization of virtual life at the expense of real life. We stand on the threshold of a new era of digital identity. Metaverses, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence are not just changing the technological landscape, they are transforming the very concept of personhood. If today, teenagers experiment with avatars and nicknames, tomorrow they will create full-fledged digital versions of themselves, existing in persistent virtual worlds. Metaverses offer unprecedented immersion into an alternative reality. Unlike modern social networks and games, they create a sense of continuous presence in the digital world. Psychologists warn, when the boundaries between the real and the virtual become almost indistinguishable, the processes of self-identification in adolescence may radically change. Digital avatars are evolving into autonomous agents. Already, technologies allow for the creation of virtual copies of people, capable of imitating their speech, facial expressions, and even communication style. A teenager will be able to launch their digital twin, which will study for them, communicate with friends, or even run a blog, while the real person is occupied with other matters. Artificial intelligence blurs the concept of authenticity. When algorithms begin to create content indistinguishable from human work, a fundamental question arises. What does it mean to be an author? If AI writes a poem based on an analysis of your style, is it your creation or not? Teenagers growing up in such an environment will face the need to rethink the concept of authorship and self-expression. The ethical dilemmas of the new era touch upon the very essence of human identity. Does a digital avatar have rights? Who is responsible for the actions of an autonomous digital twin? Can relationships in the metaverse be considered real? These questions already require serious discussion as technology rapidly develops. The psychological risks of deep immersion in virtual worlds cannot be underestimated. The phenomenon of post-metaverse dysphoria, where returning to physical reality causes discomfort and alienation, may become a common problem. Adolescents, whose identity is in the process of formation, are particularly vulnerable. However, the future of digital identity is not necessarily bleak. New technologies open up unprecedented opportunities for self-discovery and development. Virtual worlds can become a space for safe experimentation with various aspects of personality, and artificial intelligence, a tool for deeper self-understanding. The virtual and the real are two sides of the same coin in the modern world. It's time to view digital identity not as a separate part of a teenager's life, but as an integral element of a holistic personality. Our journey through the world of avatars, nicknames, and online communities has shown that digital space is not just entertainment or an escape from reality, but a full-fledged environment for self-discovery and development. Healthy integration of virtual experience into real life is becoming a key skill of the 21st century. A teenager who consciously uses digital tools for self-expression gains a unique advantage: the opportunity to explore different facets of their personality in a safe environment before manifesting them in the real world. Psychologists identify several signs of a harmonious digital identity. Firstly, it's awareness, understanding how and why various online personas are created. Secondly, flexibility, the ability to adapt self-presentation to different contexts without losing connection to core values. Thirdly, integrity, a feeling of personal unity despite the diversity of its manifestations in different environments. For parents and educators, it's important to remember, a teenager's digital identity is not a threat, but an opportunity. Instead of trying to limit online activity, it's worth helping young people use it as a tool for self-discovery. Ask open-ended questions, show genuine interest in the child's digital life, discuss the ethical aspects of online behavior. Teenagers should develop meta-awareness, the ability to see themselves from an outside perspective in digital space. Ask yourselves questions like, why do I choose this particular avatar? What do I want to tell the world with this post? How does my digital image relate to who I want to become in reality? The future belongs to those who can organically connect all dimensions of their personality, physical, emotional, social, and digital, into a single, harmonious whole. In this complex process of integration, there are no universal recipes, but there is a common principle: awareness, openness, and continuous dialogue between all participants in the digital world.